All right, guys. Well, this is it. It is the 2023 draft in this Lions franchise rebuild. I'm Mike Lowe, and we are continuing right where we left off after free agency. If you missed that previous video, go and check it out, and it'll kind of walk you through all the different steps that we took to get where we are at now, which is having pick number 2 and pick number 12 in the first round, a total of 8 picks in this draft, including 2 sixth rounders as well as the 2 first rounders. Let's talk about strategy a little bit. In the previous video, I went into it a lot more detail where we were talking about possibly even signing Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady to this team, which seems ridiculous, but that's going to be a possibility if one thing happens in this draft. And that's if the Jaguars, for some reason, pick Bryce Young, number 1 overall. We are going to go Myles Murphy, who I'm really excited about as well. So it's kind of a win-win for us. I would really like to get Bryce Young, even though I think Myles Murphy still might be the better player. I think Bryce Young's going to be probably the better, development piece we could use, even though Myles Murphy is a scheme fit and everything else. But we are in such dire need of a quarterback. We were using an undrafted rookie for more than half the season last year, and I'm just really, really high on Bryce Young. Both these guys have a positive dev story, so there's a lot here to go on. If they do take Bryce Young, I don't want to stretch it and take, even though he's still kind of considered another top 5. Where's he at here? CJ Stroud. But again, we've scouted this guy 100%. He's more of a round 1-2 talent. So, if we lose out on Bryce Young, maybe we go with a quarterback, like if Stroud for some reason were to fall to round 2. Or I don't even know how to say his name, but the quarterback here from Clemson, same kind of thing. If one of those guys were to drop, maybe we could make a move there later. We have pick 12, but again, I don't think I'd use pick 12 on a quarterback. I don't even know if I use my second round pick. It's kind of Bryce Young or bust for us. But if we do lose out on Bryce Young and we end up having to go Myles Murphy here, it's going to open things up for us to potentially grab free agent Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. I don't really think a ton of teams have the money for these guys. They were sitting there at the start of the draft. It's craziness, but it's a possibility. So it all might be moot, though, as well, once we see this first round pick here. So let's go ahead and jump into this, and let's see what the Jaguars do with the first overall pick in this draft.
Okay, it's the Lions now on the clock.
So just as we thought, they have gone Myles Murphy. It's no surprise. I'm glad to see, as I mentioned in a few previous videos now, that I am noticing the AI for QBs being much improved. I was going to be a little bit worried if they didn't take Myles Murphy. To me, he seems like the best player in this draft, especially for a team like the Jaguars, who already have Trevor Lawrence, obviously. Yeah, and this just seems like a perfect pick for them. So really, really smart pick. So again, we have picks 2 and 12. When I look at my board, I've spent a lot of time just kind of going through and organizing our draft board, including looking at all of the different stories and things like this. And the way I started it was really just making my board based off the guys that I just liked for whatever reason. I'm looking for receivers that are deep threats who can get off the line, have good release, guys that are going to be scheme fits, and so on. My game plan right now is, again, taking Bryce Young here at the second pick, and then I'm probably going to be taking one of these 2 linebackers with the 12th pick. It's maybe a little bit early for a linebacker, but I don't think that's the case. It's a huge need. And again, kudos to the Madden game engine for recognizing my 3 big needs for this team is quarterback, right end, and outside linebacker. The problem is, as much as I'm a huge proponent of defensive ends and whatnot, there's just no one there, in my opinion, who that I like enough to take with the second, or I should say the 12th pick in the draft here. There's just, again, these could be very good players. Again, David Ajabo here with this particular draft class is coming out in 2023, so a little bit different than real life. There's another Myles Murphy. That's not a typo. There are, in real life, 2 Myles Murphys. They're both right ends. One's from Clemson, who just got picked, and there's Myles Murphy from North Carolina. So don't let yourself think that's a typo or anything. But there are some other guys. You can see I have hearts on some of these guys who had positive stories and whatnot. So we're still looking to get defensive end. But as we've talked about in previous videos, it's really important to get value based on where you're picking. Need is still a consideration, right? This is the reason why the Jaguars didn't take Bryce Young, for instance, if he really was the best player on the board, which he's been all year. even though I still think, again, Miles Murphy was the best pick for them. But you still have to take into consideration positional value, need, all of those different things come into play. Anyway, we've had enough of this here. Let's finally, 2 years in the making, we're going to finally get, hopefully, our quarterback here, Bryce Young. We've had this guy slotted for the entire season, basically, and it's time to officially make him a Lion. But let's take a quick look at his report here before we do. I'll let you just kind of gander. He's 21 years old, 6 foot, a little short, but hey, Russell Wilson's made a hell of a career being that height, 204. Um, Again, he throws a tight spiral, which is something I'm looking for. Some quarterbacks don't, and it does matter. For instance, Jared Goff does not, and I struggled to play with him. So that is one of those little player notes that I'm looking for. The physicals, really the only physical I'm super concerned with is throw power. He has elite. That's a must for me in Madden. And he just so happens to be really, really quick too. You can look and see, his strength checks out. He's the 10th and actually improved it on his college pro day. Um, and his athleticism, I mean, it just looks really, really great. So that's just an added bonus that this guy can move around to. But really, what sold me on him are the skills. So we have throw accuracy on the right middle there, A, mid accuracy A, and even his deep is still B. His throw on the run is A, his throw under pressure is A, and up at the top right, play action is also A. And he also is healthy. Remember last year, if you saw the draft video from the previous season, I skipped on Malik Willis, who had really good metrics like this, not as good as Bryce Young, but his injury was an F, and that freaked me out, even though there aren't a ton of quarterback injuries at all in Madden. It just seemed kind of unrealistic to ignore that F rating. So I actually like that his awareness is a C. That tells me he's probably going to have a hidden dev trait. If it was a B, it'd be kind of like Chris Olave for us, who we picked, who did not have a dev trait. That usually indicates that they have a higher rating, but maybe not a dev trait. So a little bit of a trade-off there. They could still be really good players. But guys, this is the guy here. I'm hoping he's going to be the guy. But we are selecting number 2 overall in the 2023 draft. Even though he's not an archetype fit for us, we are hoping that he's going to measure out and still be a strong arm quarterback in the very near future as we work on developing him. But Bryce Young is the pick,
On
and
the
there it
clock
is.
now, it's the Broncos, and time is ticking.
So, as I expected, Bryce Young, hidden dev trait. That's what we wanted to see. Let's take a look at these ratings. This is the first time I'm seeing any of this here. Well, you can see again the speed stuff is legit. 84 speed, 83 acceleration, 83 agility, change of direction 78, throw power 94. This guy looks perfect so far. There is absolutely nothing here. I'm just thrilled with this pick. So even if he's just a star dev, I mean, we can work with this. He's just 21 years old. He was worth the wait, waiting 2 full years to get our quarterback. We didn't intentionally do it, but we've been trying to just kind of build the team around him a little bit. He can go in and succeed, whether it's year one or not. But the idea is it gives him some flexibility and things like that as in regards to kind of his just progression, his impact with the team. So really, really happy with this pick. It also still leaves the window open if he's not quite ready. We can go in and even still sign one of those veteran quarterbacks we talked about while we develop Bryce Young in the background. So super thrilled with pick number 2 overall. Let's pick it up here in a little bit once we get to pick 12. All right, so pick 12 is here, and there are a few guys that I am looking at. Let me show you those guys here first. Just really kind of going off of the board I made earlier. I've mentioned about one of the linebackers being a need for us. There is one left. Ojulari, I think, BJ Ojulari out of LSU. A guy I like. He's tops on my board. He is a need for us for sure. And again, you can just kind of look at the player notes. It seems like most of these player notes are identical for each player. There's very few that seem different. There are some that are different, but anyway, I don't know if that's glitchy or not. But 6'3", 249, so definitely kind of a. He looks to be more of like a power rusher to me as opposed to a speed rusher, and so that's my hesitation with picking him. I can show you kind of what I mean here. You can see his 40-yard dash is pretty slow. His cone not looking great. His 20-yard shuttle is not bad. but his bench press is pretty impressive, which again just kind of leads me to believe that he may be more of a power rusher. And not that that makes a huge difference, but because if you watch previous videos, you know I don't like to edit the positions. I kind of like the added challenge. This guy is really not going to be a fit, he might never be a fit. He could be pretty far away in regards to him being a scheme fit of a speed rusher, which is what Dan Campbell uses on the left outside, versus a power rusher on the right. If he was a right, he'd be a really good fit, I think. So even though he's tops on my board, I'm actually hesitant here. I've kind of backed away from wanting to pick him. Um, he's 21. That's a huge perk. I don't know. I'm torn because I think he's could be a good player, but I worry about the scheme fit a little bit. Because again, I don't want to edit positions. Um, if I go down, I mean, I've been looking at kind of any guys on my board here. I mean, Brandon Joseph, free safety, Antonio Johnson, strong safety, Raheem Jarrett out of Maryland. We don't really need Tim Smith anymore. And then even down here, guys that I didn't necessarily have slotted, but guys who had positive stories who I still think are going to be good. Truthfully, I think the best player available right now in the entire draft at pick 12 is Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I even looked at this. I've mentioned before, I like to run 2 tight end sets. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. I think he's going to be kind of I don't know, probably a possession guy. You can see his metrics there. I mean, he's an athletic guy. He's got really good size at 6'4", 251. He's just 21. Medium route is a B. Run block finesse A. Short route A. I mean, this guy looks like possession, but also is probably going to have some good blocking stats too. And so I even went and looked. I went back and looked at TJ Hawkinson, and I have him under a 4-year deal, a really, really team-friendly 4 years still with Hawkinson. And so as much as I tried, let me show you what I'm looking at here. As much as I tried to even talk myself into, as much as Lions fans would be just losing their minds if we picked yet another, top 12 tight end with this team after doing it with Eric Ebron, pick number 10 a number of years back, and then Hawkinson went 8th overall. I gave it some thought because, I mean, boy, like I said, I like using tight ends, but you can see here, this is for a 90 overall player. He's got a very team-friendly contract. And so, Michael Mayer is going to be a tight end too for his entire rookie contract potentially. And so it just didn't make sense to me. I do think this is a really good example of like sometimes when the best available player maybe just doesn't make sense, even if it is like, oh, he has a positive news story. Well, they've done a pretty good job of kind of mixing those in where it's not always a guarantee that that means anything. So anyway, there was other guys I looked at again that had news stories, but just guys like Brian Branch is a really, really, he has like an A zone rating, but I don't really play. I like zone. I actually play quite a bit of it with my safeties, but I want my corners to be able to match up. I want them to be tough on the line. So he's not really a fit. Derek Hall had the awareness of a B, which always just kind of makes me think that he does not have a dev trait. Hey, if he's there in the second round, I'll maybe roll the dice on him. J.D. Bertrand, the middle linebacker out of Notre Dame, I liked, but again, just not really a big need. So there are other guys here. Christian Gonzalez, really, really slow metrics with his speed, which worries me at corner. So guys, boy, I'm still really, really tempted to take the linebacker. It makes a lot of sense. Brandon Joseph was the next guy on that list. And he's the guy I'm kind of leaning towards at this point. Again, according to the player notes, who knows what this means, but looking for the massive hit, strips the ball away, can avoid flags. And what kind of intrigues me about this guy is his metrics aren't great. So if you're big into like the RAS score, like I really like the RAS score. If you don't know what that is, look that up on YouTube or on Twitter. But the RAS score, kind of relative athletic score, for prospects really has been something that's kind of proven over time that has measured out. If the guy is really, really athletic and has measurements that show that, there is a really strong correlation to them being a really good pro at positions like safety, where athleticism is going to matter a little bit more, defensive back, running back, receiver, things like that. And so Brandon Joseph kind of, again, he's not blowing me away. You see a lot of like decent, solid, marginal, but his skills are really intriguing. And again, for free safety, we're looking for a hybrid safety, and this guy screams hybrid safety to me. Block shedding, and tackling are really, really high. So that leads me to think that maybe he's a run stopper. But man coverage, I mean, that just screams hybrid. And so when I look at these two guys, it's kind of like this guy's a scheme fit. He's a year older than the linebacker. So like his negatives, right, is that his RAS score, or whatever you want to call this here, is not really going to be super impressive. And he's 22, but he's a scheme fit. And with, by the way, 3A scores, which is pretty impressive. Where the linebacker, I don't think is a scheme fit because he's going to be probably a power rusher. We technically have O'Shawn Mathis, who's our 5th-round pick last year, who's already up to a 75 or 76. Even though he's a defensive end, he's only 250 something. He's not really going to be a defensive end in a 3-4 defense here. So he already controls that, and he is a speed rusher. He, is already in that position. So now this guy's metrics were better. Again, not great. His college pro day was actually worse than his NFL combine. That's kind of weird. Usually that's the opposite, at least in real life, because it's kind of the home cooking scorekeeper doing a lot of those pro day measurements. So, and again, his metrics are good, but they definitely lend me to think that maybe he is more of a power rush guy at the outside linebacker. So, guys, I'm torn. This is a really, really tough decision, and I'm gonna have to kind of really mull on it for a second here and see what I think, because even now I thought I had my guy picked, and I'm still having kind of reservations about it. So it's a tough pick here with pick number 12. It's not a pick you can mess up. You can't pick this high in the draft and have misses. And I think I have my decision now. It's going to involve us moving O'Shawn Mathis back to the defensive line. He's a little bit undersized, but he's got really just excellent height for a left end. He is technically a left end, is what we drafted him as, but just kind of using him more as that speed rushing linebacker. But I think we are so thin at defensive end, and when it comes down to a tie between looking at a free safety or an end, I mean, we have nothing. We have Levi Wanzarike, who's just kind of a big body here, more of a depth guy. By moving Mathis to the left end, it just frees us up a little bit. We can pick this linebacker, even though I think he's a power rusher. He might fit better on the right side. We can move him there. So we have a few things we can do here. It gives us some flexibility that we really, really need. It should allow us to at least address one of these defensive end spots. And I don't like to prioritize need, but when it comes down to kind of a tie between positions, it just makes more sense. I think the free safety could be a pretty good player. I think he might be a scheme fit, but like, where is he going to be right now in this defense? And that could last a little while. I mean, a couple of years even. So I think for now, to kind of round out the defense a little bit, and because the picks are so similar, I also had the linebacker higher. He's going to be the pick. The last hesitation that I haven't really talked about is just kind of positional depth in the draft. As I look at some of those positions we're talking about, and you'll see a few guys that are starred here, but you can see left ends. There's really nobody that really jumped out at me. Even David Ajabo just wasn't really a guy I saw being a fit here. So there's just really nothing here at left end. At right end, there are a couple guys later who kind of had positive news stories, that kind of thing. But again, you can't just put all your eggs in the basket of a 3rd or 4th round pick here and just hope that that's the difference maker you're looking for. I'm not really expecting it. These would be kind of dice roll guys, not something I'm comfortable just leaving to chance. So again, looking at the linebacker spot, you can see we have that Derek Hall guy I've talked about before. But we are going to make the pick here. It's going to be left outside linebacker BJ Ojulari from LSU. The metrics, they're not terrible, but again, if we talked about kind of moving guys to the defensive end, I mean, he's going to allow Mathis to move back to defensive line full time, and still some decent metrics. So I'm excited to see what this guy can do. He could be a really good example of just kind of throwing a guy into the fire and see how they develop. But I think he may end up being our right outside linebacker on this team if he comes in looking as much of like a power rusher as I think he's going to be. But he's going to be our pick. Let's see if we got a hidden dev trait here with the 12th overall pick, BJ Ojulari out of LSU. He is a hidden dev.
Now it's the Falcons.
So pretty happy with that pick, Ben. That's pick 2 and pick 12, both hidden development players, both huge positions of need. 88 acceleration, decent agility, 84 speed. So he actually probably quicker than I was thinking, and still 80 strength. So again, a really, really well-rounded guy. I would still wager that he is probably going to be a power rusher, but I don't know. If some of those speed numbers come through, he might actually be a scheme fit after all of this. But this guy could be a pretty special player. So pretty excited about BJ Ojulari here. That's the Lions' last pick here in the first round. And again, we will pick it up here in a little bit when we get to our pick in the second round. Well, if you were paying close attention there to the fast-forwarded draft picks, you'll notice that this pick is probably going to be a hell of a lot easier than the previous one because we were deciding between the linebacker and the safety, and here we are at pick number 34. We took the linebacker previously, and guess who's at the very top of the draft board and at the very top of my draft board? That's Brandon Joseph, the free safety of Northwestern. So the guy we almost took 12th overall. Just millimeters away pressing the X button, drafting this guy. This is a pretty easy pick. There are some good players here that I'd even consider here, but it's really tough to pass up a guy we were thinking of taking earlier. So again, just to kind of give you a look at him, I think he's going to be a scheme fit for us with a what do you want to call it? A hybrid archetype. I think he's a guy that can probably start playing right away for us potentially, at the very least, kind of that third safety that we'll use in big nickel, things like that. His metrics weren't great, but I feel a lot more comfortable picking this guy here in the second round. But again, just some really, really good grades that are just hard to ignore. We have him pretty high up. I guess my only hesitation is that maybe a bunch of other teams scouted him and realized he's not what we think, but everything else would be kind of a roll of the dice here. I'm looking at here just percentages to see if there's other guys on my board who were rated higher that would maybe still be a fit here. If there's some day 3 running backs, obviously we're not going to do that. We don't need another quarterback now. Travis Blackshear would be a stretch. Again, quarterback. So the only other guy, maybe, Raheem Jarrett, but he's kind of a 2-3 talent unless there's something here. He didn't have a positive news story that I recall. So again, I like this guy. He's the next guy on my board, but I mean, shoot, the way this draft's unfolding, there haven't been a lot of receivers taken. This guy might fall to us in the third round. So again, another reason maybe not to try and stretch it here. So elite acceleration, great agility, elite strength, great speed. He's got a lot of things I like here. Can still jump. Again, just really kind of a nice all-around guy. Runs good medium routes, can catch in traffic. Really probably good after the catch. Ball carrier vision of B, break tackle A. He's a guy you could probably throw some screens to, shorten, third and short, that kind of thing. I would think he could be a deep threat too. So very well could be a scheme fit, but we're kind of doing okay at receiver. Let me just take a second just to kind of show you how our receiver room's looking here. Because it's not bad, and I like to go look at team salaries because you can kind of see the full picture, guys, on this screen. So we still have Demarcus Robinson here, who again had a pretty good year. He's got 2 more years left. Just kind of the perfect guy that we wanted to come in. He can be anything. He was a number 1 last year. He could be a number 1, number 2 this year. Zach Pascal, I may actually be cutting, just because when we look at his age and whatnot, Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of brings similar game than Zach Pascal does for a lot cheaper. We can get a savings of $2 million. So I don't know. It's really not a huge savings. We're taking a bigger penalty, and maybe for the depth, we just let him be. But you can see we got a lot of guys here. None of them are like world beaters. Chris Olave is still down here. He's a guy that we've been really, really trying to develop. And I like him. I mean, his speed and his short route running, which I've shown you before. I mean, it's a really great combination. He has a role on this team. I don't care if his rating's a 74 right now. He will soon be a scheme fit for us, hopefully. So yeah, we have a lot of young developmental project receiver guys, but really no star players or anything like that. The only stars, I believe, are Pascal, who is really too old for it to matter. He's normal, actually. And Demarcus Robinson, but again, 28. So, we don't really have an up-and-coming receiver. So it's certainly possible, but boy, I don't have that same kind of room with our safeties. We signed a few holdover guys. I talked about in a previous video how this might be, a risk, but it's kind of a good problem to have in that we can take this guy that we almost stretched for. And guys, think about it. If I hadn't signed that safety, Mike Edwards is kind of the filler. I might have been forced to stretch this, and here we're getting him in the second round. So we're going to go Brandon Joseph. I'm really curious to see what this guy's going to bring because even though I haven't fully scouted him, I believe these skills are accurate. A coverage, A block shedding, A tackle, that to me is hybrid. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what this guy's going to be because I think at the very least he'll be a high overall normal, but I'm hoping he's hidden dev too. So here we go. 34th pick, Lions out of Northwestern are taking 22-year-old free safety Brandon Joseph. All right, so he's a normal
Broncos
dev.
are on the clock now.
Not a great pick. And not kind of what I was hoping for. 87 speed. It's a little disappointing, but not surprising, right? We kind of looked at his metrics not being great, so I worried a little bit about his RAS score, and maybe that's where he was getting passed over on. But acceleration's pretty decent, but yeah, I mean everything else just kind of we'll have to kind of wait and see. But not loving this pick, but I'm sticking to the board. I'm kind of sticking to the game plan, and I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll have to see. I mean, he's a guy. If he gets playing time, he can still certainly develop into a starting player. So, but yeah, for early second round, I mean, yeah, definitely hoping for a little bit more there. But gosh, if there's anything that's been true about the Lions over the years, it's that our second round picks have been so bad. Typically, we've had some gems in there, Sean Rogers, Darius Slay, but they've been pretty bad. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at Arquan Bush could have been an interesting pick. I'm looking at kind of just further down my list here of guys. He had a positive news story too, but I don't know. I don't know if I would have taken a corner here. We're doing okay at corner. He's already 23. He attracts flags. Good metrics though. I like the acceleration and speed, of course. But again, his press is only a C. So again, it'd be kind of similar to what we saw at the receivers. Like he could be a decent player, but I kind of have a room full of these guys, and you run the risk of him just being a normal dev. And now it's like, okay, what is he? My sixth corner at this point. So I'm okay with the pick. We've already made it. By the way, that tight end I really like went to the Bears out of Notre Dame. So just kind of a perfect fit for them. But yeah, he'll be a guy I'll be keeping my eyes on. So anyway, Brandon Joseph's the pick here in the second round. Let's resume here in a little bit when we get to round 3. Okay, so we are at the start of the third round here, second pick. And when you're a team picking this early in the draft, really you're almost like off by a round, right? I mean, this early of a third round pick is very similar to a late second round pick. And so this is still a pick that is really of just the utmost importance to get right. There are quite a few players I still have on my board that I really, really like. And I've kind of narrowed it down to 2 guys if I just kind of sort by my board. Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama. He's at the top of my board. He is a round 2-3 guy, so he's kind of the perfect spot. The last guy I have rated this high. And again, just some pretty good traits, avoids flags, rips the ball from runners, looks for big hits. Again, most players seem to have this, but he's 21 years old. Had pretty decent metrics. Speed elite. I mean, you can see that stands out right away. He was the fastest strong safety, but 4.42 and then 4.35 with the kind of the home cooking measurement there. Still not like crazy fast, but yeah, he is the fastest strong safety, at least in this class. Strength good. Again, a lot of the other metrics just kind of whatever. Not exactly sure what this guy would be. I mean, I don't know if he would be. We're kind of looking for a run stopper in this scheme. His zone coverage is really bad. I do ask my safeties to play a lot of zone, so I'm not thrilled about that. His awareness probably tells me he's not going to be rated pretty high, but again, could still have a dev trait. Finesse moves being a B, so that maybe, could he be a pretty good run blitzer, that kind of thing. I don't really blitz my safeties a lot though, so I don't know. It's weird. I'm gonna actually pass on Malachi Moore. I like him. I'll be very curious to see, but I also don't really want to be developing two safeties at the same time when we already signed kind of two filler safeties. I just worry he could be good, but what if we roll the dice and now we have another pick that is just like a backup safety we just picked? I've kind of already done that once in this draft, and I don't know. I don't want to just assume that I'd make that same mistake, and I maybe would pick Malachi Moore if it wasn't for Osiris Torrance. It's maybe a bit of a stretch. Osiris Torrance is actually the third uh, right guard still available. There's a chance this guy's there with my fourth round pick, and that's the hesitation I have on Osiris Torrance. But I like this guy so much that I might just pick him now. Um, he attracts flags. A little bummed about that. He's 22 years old. Um, but check out these metrics. Strength, first thing I look at with Lyman, 40 and then 42 bench press. I mean, just monstrous. And we're looking for run block guys. I'm also looking for guys who can pull. Look at that acceleration, elite, agility, elite, change of direction, elite, speed, great. This guy can pull like none other. This guy can come in right now and probably start for us, even with a third round pick. The safety, I could guarantee you, even with the head and dev trait, probably wouldn't start for us. I might be tempted to kind of get his rating up, but again, it'd be kind of forcing it a little bit. If Osiris Torrance wasn't here, I would probably pick the safety. And there is a chance. I would say it's 50-50. Osiris Torrance is there for us in the fourth round, but I'm just not willing to take that gamble. I like the impact blocking B. The guy's going to stay healthy. These metrics just jump off the page at me. This is like a Raz superstar at guard. And if we kind of go and look at the team's positional depth and whatnot, you can see maybe the reason why this might fit. I mentioned in a previous video or even earlier in this video, I forget now, but we have some decent depth at guard. We signed Will Hernandez. Willie Hernandez played for the Detroit Tigers in 1984. But Will Hernandez is a nice player. We signed in free agency. He's nothing to write home about, but just kind of our fifth offensive lineman, right? He's our right guard, kind of the lineman that I consider the least important. He does his job. He is a power blocker, doesn't really do a whole lot of pass protection, but he's a 73 overall, 27 years old. Last year of his contract that he signed with us. And then we also have Ben Cleveland. Again, not a bad player, 25-70, normal dev, who we picked up on practice squad. And you got Logan Stenberg, who's been a carryover from the Patricia era. Again, 26, 69. I mean, he's just nothing to write home about. 67 technically. So he's kind of the odd man out at this point. But you can see this, he would slot right in because I actually think he'd be rated probably around where Ben Cleveland is my guess. And it would be picking up to Hernandez pretty quickly with him being 22 years old. We look at the safety. That speed is tempting. I mean, it'd be really fun to have that fast of a safety. And we did just sign Amani Hooker. It wasn't a huge contract. I think he just had that little 2-year deal from us. Let's see. Yeah, so a 2-year deal, not big money. So there's a fit there. Gosh, I'm so tempted. I'm so tempted. And I guess there's a chance too that the safety falls an entire round later. But I don't know. I just don't think he will. I'm pretty sure the safety won't, and I just don't know if the lineman will. There's a chance. We can see the picks we have left, right? And I also have some other guys that I like for that fourth round pick too. So it is tough. I'm really confident that Osiris Torrance is going to be a good player. He fits. Malachi Moore, I'm trying not to fall in love with that speed. I've talked about this in previous videos because there's other metrics. He's pretty athletic, but I mean, it's really just a lot of speed. And maybe if I was in an online league and I would just control this guy, this is a fun pick. But I don't know. I got burned on the last safety. I don't think I want to dip my hand in that cookie jar again just yet. So we're going to go out of ULL, Osiris Torrance. We are hoping that this guy, I'm not expecting him to have the dev trait. If he does, great, but I'm expecting him to really compete for our starting right guard spot. And hey, he's going to help out that young quarterback we picked, number 2 overall. So 6'5", 332 pounds. We saw his metrics. it's a little of a stretch. We're probably taking him a little bit early, but I like this guy enough. Again, just to kind of show you, there are some other guys here on this list. These are guys that had positive traits. But these ends aren't exactly what I'm looking for in kind of like a run stuffing right end. They're a little undersized. I might take a flyer on them. Again, positive news stories. There was also positive news stories for this right guard. So there's an argument there, but the difference here is I just don't like his metrics enough. Strength solid, not good enough for me. His mobility metrics just not very good. So I kind of think this guy's probably a red herring in regards to dev story or the positive news story. I think his is BS personally. I don't think he's going to be very good. So I left him there just as kind of a reference point. But of course, the quarterbacks we're not really looking at here. So, oh man, I don't know. Truth is, neither one of these guys are probably going to be very good, right? We're kind of into the third round now. I'm fighting myself because I don't like to stretch for guys. And there's a chance I could get both of these guys, right? There is a chance. If we went Malachi Moore now, there's a chance. There's a chance this guy lasts. But I don't know. Malachi Moore is the highest rated strong safety left if we look at all. But there are some other guys. Again, right guard we saw. Oh, man. Oh, man. It is tough. But gosh, if I pick a right guard, I don't know. Now I'm like back and forth. This is terrible. I'm terribly indecisive on this pick for some reason. Wanting to get a good safety. We had a really good safety play. I can't remember his name now, but just an older guy that we signed to kind of just week one preseason. And he was pretty good for us. A little slow, but and I noticed a big difference having a good strong safety. But again, I think this guy is just, I don't know. I think it's just speed on this guy. I don't really think he's going to be a fit. So, gosh darn it, we're going to go with the guard. It's a bit of a stretch, but I think he's going to be that good. And I don't mind kind of rolling the dice a little bit if you're pretty confident in the guy. And I'm pretty confident in Osiris Torrance. So here's the pick. Look at that.
All right, the
Look at that.
Broncos are now on the clock.
Hidden dev trait in the third round. We are 3 for 4 with hidden dev traits at this point. 95 strength. I knew that was going to be pretty high. 85 acceleration. This guy's a starter. We now have 3 starters out of this draft for sure. With, in Lions tradition, our second round pick being kind of the bust pick so far. But change of direction, I'd like to see a little bit higher. I don't really know if that plays into like a guard who pulls or anything like this, but oh man, yes. Loving me some Osiris Torrance. This is awesome. Look at this, the young offensive line we have going. Penei Sewell, right tackle. Left tackle, Evan Neal. Now we have Osiris Torrance into the mix. And also on left guard, you have Jonah Jackson to go along with probably the Lions' best player, potentially, Frank Ragnow at center. We have a really strong offensive line. There's nothing perhaps friendlier to a young quarterback than an offensive line that you can trust. So Osiris Torrance is the pick. We'll be back for the pick in the 4th round. At the start of round 4 here, it's starting to get a little simpler. Starting to kind of narrow down the picks. Obviously, we have a pick in round 4, a pick in round 5, and then 2 in round 6. So 4 more selections to make. And I'm going to actually try something a little bit different in this round. Something I haven't really paid very close attention to. But if you're looking at this screen here, you're seeing the kind of the big board, right? Just the overall all prospects that are left. Of course, if you see a guy with a heart, that's a guy I put on my favorites list at some point. For various reasons, such as Baldonado here, who had a positive news story, I believe is why he's there. A potential good pick for us. We don't have any right ends on the entire roster at this point, but just not really what I'm looking for. I don't think he has the strength I'm looking for to kind of be that run-stopping right end, which is what the scheme fit calls for here. Anyway, there are a few players I do like kind of still floating around. You guys will like Jaden Wally. here. Again, great speed, 4.3 on both measurements there. Um, good agility, or elite agility to go along with that, elite speed, good acceleration, marginal strength. Again, I just worry about this guy just kind of being another body in the room. A nice project. If he's there in a later round, I might just take a flyer on him, but I still see some guys that I like a little bit more than just, again, chasing speed, something I talk about trying not to do too much here. By the way, those two guards that were before the guard we ended up picking did get drafted, so I'm relieved I picked him when I did, because both those guys got picked like in the early 20s, and I think to wait another 10 picks, I would have been freaking out. So we lost the safety, of course, who went pretty quickly after we picked the guard from the previous round, but nonetheless, I'm thrilled with that pick. So it might have been our best value pick at this point. So I do like Key Lawrence here, safety out of Oklahoma. Just 21 years old again. Pretty decent metrics across the board. A lot of firsts you can see for strong safety. So he's a pretty athletic guy. He'd have a pretty good RAS score for that position. A catching is really intriguing. Finesse moves A. Again, he maybe gets kind of a little down and dirty blitzing the run. His coverage isn't great, but again, that kind of gives me a few clues to maybe he is more of a run stuffer, which would be a scheme fit for us. So again, a guy I like. I don't think it's a guy I want to take right here necessarily, but he's up there with Jaden Wally. That maybe if he's floating around in the next round, hey, we'll grab him happily. Two other guys I really like. One is Dylan Doyle, who I just saw. I just missed this guy when I did my original scouting, but looking now, I was scouting middle linebackers a little heavier this year, and he comes out as a pass coverage guy, which isn't a scheme fit, but is always something you can use in sub linebacker spots. So, and especially for a fourth round pick, to get kind of a role player like this would be really interesting. Pretty good metrics, a lot of top five, a lot of top 10 even in this mix here. So pretty athletic across the board, and his skills are really impressive. Man coverage A, zone coverage B, really, really nice stuff. So, but he's still not the guy I'm going to take just yet. Again, if one of those three guys fall, especially, I mean, Dylan's probably my second choice here. If he were to fall to round 5, gosh, he's right now kind of the lowest rated guy on the big board. So I'm going to kind of roll the dice. But the guy I'm going to end up taking is Travis Blackshear out of Furman, at least I think, until I probably talk myself out of it again. Now let's look at him, and then I'll tell you why I'm deciding to pick him. He's known to attract flags. A little worried about that. Always looking to intercept the pass. He'll rip the ball away. Okay, so he's 22 years old. There are younger prospects out there, 5'10", 180. Elite acceleration, elite agility, speed, great. I look at acceleration probably more than even speed. I certainly need speed with corners. You can't have a slow corner, but acceleration is perhaps just as important. And he's pretty damn good at both. So top 5 and then a top 10 showing, but at the exact same timing. So again, it just kind of shows you the home cooking for other guys. But he's consistently fast, so there's no question about that. And his cone drill, which is going to show you more of the agility rating there, comes out second across the board. And his acceleration's a little slow. Not slow. I mean, it's rated as elite, but it just kind of shows me that he didn't really, maybe the metric didn't test as well. And I tend to believe the ratings on the left-hand side to be more accurate. Those never change. So I'm going to assume that that's accurate. And we look at his skills, there's nothing crazy. I mean, his zone coverage is terrible. He's not a good tackler, but he does show some strength in block shedding. He's got good stamina. His play recognition's a little worrisome. But here's the reason why I'm planning to pick this guy is if I scroll back down to him, he has that up arrow with a 78. And as I scroll by these other guys, you can see this is kind of like showing their trajectory, right? So for whatever reason, this guy has shot up crazy amounts, and I'm just curious about it. He also had a positive news story appear about him. So another reason why, as much as I actually still like Dylan Doyle better than him, I'm really hoping Dylan Doyle's there in the 5th round. There's a couple really just interesting. This guy's worth taking a flyer on. This is when you can take flyers, right? Rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Roll the dice. Who cares? You're playing with house money at this point. So Travis Blackshear is a guy I'm just curious to see. So again, 78, he's climbed up the board tremendously. I mean, that's almost 3 rounds of climbing. And so there are a lot of really, really good corners in this draft. If we look at kind of who's still there at corner, he's not even the top guy. He's the fourth one down. So again, he still might be there next round. I'm not really sure. Whereas, again, Dylan Doyle is the best middle linebacker left. Might not be there. I don't know. But again, I just kind of defer to what I said the last round. Both these guys probably aren't very good. You might as well try to get the one you're most curious about at this point, because there's a chance you won't get both either way you do this. So we are going to go with Travis Blackshear just to kind of just show you kind of the team depth of where we're at these positions. Again, we'll go to the team salaries page. Kind of shows you the better breakdown. So at middle linebacker, and we even though we're 3-4, we don't really do a ton of like 2 linebacker stuff. But Kaiser White, Kaiser White, I think, or is it Kaiser? I forget how you say his name, but I think it's Kaiser White. Undersized middle linebacker, but again, is still a pretty good pass coverage guy himself. So that tells me that right there, we don't really need Doyle all that much. Maybe we will. Maybe he's going to be there next round. But there's still some linebackers here that I like. I still like Derek Barnes. He's really, really quick. Not much of a pass coverage guy, but he's a guy that can come in and play. And so again, we don't use a ton of middle linebackers, even though we're 3-4. We're much more in a kind of a nickel setup. And again, corner, similar to our wide receiver room, it's not hurting for talent. We have Okuda, who's star dev, McDuffie, who we took in the second round last year, who's star dev, and Brendan Radley Hiles is a guy we got just as an undrafted free agent and has star dev. And so we have some guys to work with. Could we use some more depth? Because again, I mean, this is, it's a little thin. This is not good secondary, but by no stretch. I mean, even if we look at the safeties, it's not a good secondary. So we're definitely hoping that our defensive line can kind of cover some of that. But we have some developmental things here. And so, again, I'm just kind of curious. What do we do if he's a star dev or if he's a hidden dev? We're going to have 4 guys potentially in that mix. That's a good problem to have, I guess. We'll have to sort something out. And again, middle linebacker is just not something we use a whole ton. I don't think the guy from the middle linebacker, was he from Notre Dame? I'm trying to remember where he's from, but or Boise State or something. Or Boyle was his name. But I don't think Boyle is going to have a hidden dev trait or anything. So he's just kind of a dude. Dylan Doyle, sorry, out of Baylor. I'm getting all my letters mixed up. But hey, we're going to just see what this riser is if there's something to it here. If not, oh well, we have some more depth at corner. It's fine. I actually think he's going to be a scheme fit too. I think he will be a slot corner because he's pretty bad at zone. So I don't think he'll be zone. And I don't think he's man-to-man because his press, he just doesn't have a lot of strength. So if we look at his strength, it's marginal. That tells me he's probably going to be a dev slot. What am I trying to say? A dev fit for us being a slot corner. So we're going to go Travis Blackshear out of Furman, 5'10", 180 pounds, 22 years old. He is the pick for the Lions in round 4. So he comes in at normal.
Okay, next up, it's the Broncos on the clock.
He's athletic though. 94 acceleration, 93 agility, 93 speed. I mean, for a 4th-round pick, I'm fine with that. We rolled the dice. I would say it's a wash. I'm really curious to see his coverage scores and whatnot, but he's certainly an athletic guy. Maybe even a kick returner, punt returner, that kind of thing. So I'm okay with him being a high riser. I think to get a guy with that kind of athleticism in the 4th round, fine by me. So we'll see if one of those other guys are available for round 5. It'll make these next 3 picks we have remaining rather easy. So let's see how that all looks. Well, if these next 2 rounds kind of fall how I'm anticipating them to, it's going to be pretty simple. You may have noticed that our boy Doyle there is still available, and he's going to be our pick, just as kind of we were talking about. And so Dylan Doyle out of Baylor is the guy I'm looking at. What I'm hoping to grab in the 6th round is a guy that I still have 3 guys on my kind of favorites list. Cameron Peoples, I've decided I'm going to wait on. I just worry he's kind of more of like a fullback, and I don't really want to draft this. I like his strength. I thought I'm certain he's going to be a power running back, but I think he's going to be pretty slow. And again, I don't really care too much for if he's slow as like a power back, like a kind of like a role player, goal line kind of guy. I also don't need to draft this. I can find this anywhere. So I'm going to actually pass entirely on Cameron Peoples here, unless there's maybe nothing left in the seventh round or something. And Donovan Lai, or however you say his name, he was the guy I was kind of looking at, but now that we've already drafted the other right guard we picked earlier with the hidden dev trait, not really a need for this. We are super, super deep at guard at this point. His strength is just great. So it's not bad. Again, if we were looking to kind of fill out some depth, maybe I'd grab him. But in the sixth round, I'm really hoping to get Jelani Woods, tight end out of Virginia. Look at this dude. This guy's like a small offensive lineman, 6'7", 265. He's 23, but I'm getting him for one reason, right? Check out that strength, elite. Second, fourth, as far as bench press goes with his two metrics. This guy's strong as hell. He's going to be a run blocker, is what I'm expecting. A run block finesse. He can also run short routes, which is perfect for a second tight end, just kind of running stuff underneath, catching some goal line passes, that kind of thing. Really like Jelani Woods. I was actually considering picking him now, but for me, I kind of look at the value of like, well, again, a second string tight end, blocking tight end that I could probably find on the free agent wire. You can't always find a young pass coverage linebacker who I know for sure is that archetype because it's been scouted and just has some really interesting metrics. First off, he'll have a pretty decent RAS score. Again, just kind of looking at the dash and I mean, these are good for a fifth round pick is where we're at. So really, really solid stuff all the way around. And again, to go along with that man coverage, so covering running backs out of the backfield, zone coverage. This is terrific stuff. So his pursuit's a little low, but so what? Bring this guy in on third down. I mean, this guy could be on the team and have a role from day one. So Dylan Doyle, who we're going to get, I just kind of see a coverage linebacker is more valuable than a kind of second string blocking tight end. I'm really hoping to get both, but we're going to go with Dylan Doyle here out of Baylor, 6'3", 242, pass coverage linebacker, and maybe we'll get lucky and he's got a hidden dev trait. But either way, he's just kind of a guy we're going to fill out the roster with. So there he is.
Now the Broncos are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
Athletic, 87 speed, so he's actually faster than Derek. Who's the? Oh my gosh, drawing a blank on the linebacker of the Lions I just showed earlier. Derek Barnes. So he's faster than Derek Barnes, 88 acceleration. He's a very, very athletic guy. He's going to be a nice coverage linebacker, no doubt. So not super strong. We kind of figured that going in. That's not really his game. So Dylan Doyle, fifth round pick for the Lions. We got two more picks left. They're both in round 6. Let's see. I don't remember what numbers. Let's just take a quick look. So the 2nd and then the 19th, and then that's it. So I don't trade in the draft. The AI rarely does it. I will make a trade before the draft or something like that if I need to, but I didn't really feel the need. The only consideration I even gave was maybe moving up to the first pick, but I was pretty sure the Jaguars weren't going to take our quarterback. So glad we sat tight. We got 2 more picks left in the 6th round. Let's get to it. Well, it happens sometimes. The pick right before us is the tight end that I wanted. Jelani Woods out of Virginia goes to the Jaguars with the first pick in the 6th round. So it's back to the drawing board a little bit to see what we're going to do here with our first of 2 picks in the 6th round, but that's okay. We got some other options. All right, so last 2 picks for the Lions here. Got a few guys I'm keeping my eyes on for the 19th pick here in the 6th round. But for the 2nd pick in the 6th round, I have my guy. And as soon as the screen loads, I will show you. First, a couple of the other guys I'm looking at. Cameron Peoples, I've actually kind of put back on the list because I realized even though his for a power back, I was looking at his physicals and saw the 12th and 10th 40-yard dash. I mean, it's still 4.5 seconds, and for a power back, that's still not that bad. So I've kind of put him back on maybe I'll grab him late. It'll either be him with the 19th pick, again, kind of working backwards, or it's going to be I'm thinking a receiver. There's a couple of receivers I like here. I'll show you a couple kind of honorable mentions. Slade Bolden out of Alabama. Um, acceleration elite, agility elite, speed great. Pretty intriguing, fun little guy maybe. Maybe run some reverses or something. I don't really know. There's just not a lot about his prowess as a receiver whatsoever. And I don't know. I mean, sure, speed's nice, but I mean, I don't know. He's 23. It's a 6th round pick. They're all going to probably be wasted picks anyway. But I would maybe consider him. But there's a couple other receivers I actually like more than that. Let's see. Where are they? So let me just go to receiver, I guess. Because it was Parker Washington I'm going to talk about here in a second. It must have been Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. So 6 foot, 185. Again, really athletic guy. The fastest receiver in the draft, still sitting here in the 6th round, which I know people would just love to get. Elite agility. So again, a lot of little things you could do with a guy like this. But I don't know. He might just be depth chart fodder. And again, 6th round, so I'm fine with that. But injury rating D, a little concern. I do like the B. He's intriguing. But the receiver I actually like more than him. Again, this would be for the 2nd pick we have in the 6th round because I'm not going to do this yet because there are multiple receivers I like. I like Parker Washington out of Penn State, 5'10", 207. Much slower, right? Much slower, but really good agility. A pretty good jumper. He's a strong player, something I really like, and he's got B release, just something we just don't have on this team. A guy who can get downfield. I don't know what kind of routes they're going to run, but I do think he's a scheme fit because his medium route's pretty bad, his short route's pretty bad. He might have a C deep route maybe if we're lucky. So we'd have to kind of see how that looks. But he's probably the guy I would take. But I don't know. Even looking at the Michigan State guy again, that speed could be fun. Either way, right? There's a few options we have at receiver. The guy we're going to take, though, I'm actually pretty excited about for a 6th-round pick. And it's strong safety out of Texas San Antonio, UTSA, Rashad Wisdom. This guy is really intriguing to me. So he's 22 years old, 5'9", 205, kind of built like a tank. His physicals, I mean, pretty good. You see, he'll have a decent RAS score, a lot of top 5 stuff here. Very athletic guy, pretty strong too. Great strength, actually his highest score. Check out these skills though. And again, this is for strong safety in a run stuffing scheme. Block shedding, B. Play recognition, B. Stamina, A. Tackle, B. This is good stuff right here. Like, this guy could be a surprise. I'm not banking on it. I mean, I'd probably give it less than a 10% chance, but he's intriguing. He's an intriguing player. And so we talked about, safeties being a need. The safety we even picked in the 2nd round, I'm not really thrilled about. He was a free safety, but again, maybe Rashad Wisdom might give the free safety we picked in the 2nd round a run for the kind of the safety 3 spot this year. So we are going to go with Rashad Wisdom, 5'9", 205, strong safety out of UTSA. He is our pick, number 2 in the 6th round for the Detroit Lions.
On the clock now, it's the Broncos, and time is ticking.
So nothing crazy, but 89 speed, 89 acceleration for a 6th-round strong safety. His strength, actually, I'm surprised. He probably won't be a scheme fit. I'm surprised it's that low. I don't know what to make of that. That's interesting because, again, we looked at his skills. Well, I should say, if we looked at his actual measurables, they talked about strength being his biggest strength, pun intended there. But it's really not. So I don't know. Maybe those ratings aren't all that accurate, even though they don't change, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. But either way, I'm excited to see what Rashad Wisdom looks like. He was our 6th-round pick, the first of 2 this round. This is it, the last pick here, and it made it kind of easy. If you were paying attention, you saw that the receiver from Michigan State went, the receiver from Alabama went, Peoples, the running back, went, and that really leaves the one guy left that I was looking at with that receiver from Penn State. I like Parker Washington. So yeah, I'm curious to see what he's going to look like. Again, 5'10", 207, but he's just 21 years old. There we
All
go.
right, now
So
on the
speed's
clock,
not
the
bad.
Chargers.
89 speed, that's not that bad. 86 jumping. Agility 96. Interesting. Curious to see what you can do with this guy. So again, for this late of a pick, yeah, I don't know. Works for me.